How's your Monday morning?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, the weather is finally starting to warm up here.
Okay.
Finally.
Let's just say, let's don't jinx it. Let's not
All
jinx
right.
it.
But you know it's going to trick us because
know.
this Midwestern weather is like crazy. It's all over the
At
place.
least one. Well, at least, one more time. Let's hope.
Yeah. It's probably going to trick us like twice.
Yeah.
And then we thought we weren't going to get a winter.
Were we wrong? We literally were like,
because it was
dang.
warm for like the longest.
I know.
But it's all good. We're making the best of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Kind of making the best of it, getting creative, using this downtime to stir up some of that energy.
I agree.
Yeah, but it's another Monday. I'm looking forward to this week. How is everyone doing out there? I hope everyone's Monday is off to a great start. This is People Being People with Mona and Tyler and Mona. This is a podcast where we talk real life situations, things that are going on in our life, in the world, entrepreneurship, all that good stuff. We just throw it all in a bucket and kind of mix it up and people being people.
Yay!
I hope everyone's Monday is going great. Let's crush it this week. Let's achieve our goals, all of that good stuff. This is People Being People. Let's get to it. Self-love isn't an easy journey.
Especially when you came from a really broken place inside of you.
It's an everyday choice. Yeah.
Hello.
It feels like season 2 is finally kicking off because we got some good things going on here today.
We got some good things stirring up, and
I'm so excited about this episode. I'm ready to get into it.
Ready.
We got one of our good friends sitting right here with us, and we haven't introduced her yet because you know what I mean? We got to make this real special. We got to make this very special. We have the one and only Ngoc Thach on the podcast today.
Hello.
On People Being People.
How are you?
I'm doing so well.
Awesome.
Really, I'm still starstruck, and even more so now having heard the intro and just watching you guys together. Your energy is so real.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We wanted to get you on the podcast today because I know you have a story of entrepreneurship and starting your own business. And so let's just get into it and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, let's go way back.
Okay, way back, because you guys actually know each other.
Who is Ngoc? Where did your story start? Where are you from? I want to know all of that good stuff because Ngoc and I, we have some history from the past. We're going to get into that today. It's kind of funny. You know what I mean? We were talking a little bit about it before we started recording. But, yeah, one thing about Ngoc I can say off back is she is a very patient person, and I will let you guys know why later on. But first and foremost, I just want to hear a little bit about, where everything started for you.
Yeah, I'll give you a little refresher and even go back a little bit further there too. So I would say that the superpowers really started growing when I was between 4 to 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
So my family immigrated when I was about 2 years old from Vietnam. And being the youngest person in our family and growing up with the most education when it came to English, learning English at the earliest age, I became the family translator.
Oh.
So, going to doctor's appointments, the stores, anywhere where we really needed to bridge that gap of understanding.
Yeah.
And so that's where I always tell people, I learned how to tell stories. I learned how to communicate. I learned how to listen to things that weren't being said at a very young age.
Yeah.
So that helps to make sense of some of the things that I learned how to do at later stage in life. I went to college being a major academic. I hadn't really worked much in my life, but I grew up in Sioux Falls, graduated from O'Gorman in 2008, and I left about 12 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Now, I didn't go very far. I was in Vermilion for 6 years and Aberdeen for another 6 years, which is where I met Tyler. Back in I think 2015.
Yeah, it had to be about 20.
Like 6 years ago.
Yeah, that was 2015.
Yeah.
Crazy story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had just managed a restaurant through like its first 3 years in Vermilion. And then I went on to do car sales in Aberdeen. There was a brief stint at a law firm in there in Sioux Falls.
Oh, okay.
But I quickly moved up to Aberdeen and did car sales for an entire year, which is where I met Tyler from like 2014, 2015. And then I took everything that I learned from sales and quick transactions and went and worked for an upstart hotel company doing their sales and marketing development. Eventually became director of PR, and then went on to become the vice president of communications for the franchise company, managing corporate communications for over 60 hotels.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. And now you have your own business that you've started. Mix Maker. And so it's a marketing company with like public relations
And
communications. So do you teach like brands on like how to public speak or like what like?
Mostly working with small business owners right now.
Oh, okay.
You'll notice that like my way of speaking, I'm so introverted that it's not that public speaking or speaking to people is particularly my forte. I'm good at bridging the gap of understanding it once again, but I'm not particularly
Doing
great at public speaking. I get very like inside myself and wondering if I even make sense to people most of the time. So that's how I get into my head when I'm actually talking. But where Mix Maker is really interesting to people and is capturing somewhat unexpected level of attention so far is I started just over 100 days ago, really.
Oh, I thought it was like a year ago.
Yeah, I thought this is something you've been doing. Yeah. Woo, well, hey, congratulations on
got,
taking
like,
that leap.
And you were in the 605 magazine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That is amazing. I didn't know it was 100 days. I thought this was like a year, like Mona Lisa said.
No, I mean, a year ago, I was knee deep into communications for the franchise company, and the pandemic was just about to hit, you know. So we were going 100 miles in one direction and then came to a complete stop in a matter of a few weeks from today. You know, we'll be looking at the pandemic declarations anniversary. Yeah.
Wow.
So what I did in-house was really translate between different orbits. So you have executives, you have investors, you have franchisees for this, you know, hotel franchise company, all of its operators, and then of course the end consumer, the guests who are staying at the hotels. Yeah, so most of my time was really, I managed a few employees and projects in-house, but it was actively producing and writing to all of these people to let them know that, you know, we're doing everything that we can and their safety, their investment are at the forefront of our minds every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it seems like you've been like really passionate about communication, obviously since you were younger from like your parents, you know, growing up in Sioux Falls. And, you know, speaking on that a little bit, like, was that stressful for you as like a child, like being the communicator with everything? And like, I couldn't imagine, like, I feel like that, you know, that's awesome. That was a lot on your shoulders for sure. Like,
Thank you
how was that growing up? Was it stressful? Like, how was it?
The risk was so real, and I could recognize the risk of not communicating accurately or you know, not being able to communicate the truth, because there are so many things that you don't even understand growing up at that age. And you're trying to communicate it to, you know, medical professionals or store clerks.
Right.
And so the risk was real. I also say that pain is such a good teacher. It's an efficient teacher.
Yeah.
I didn't need too many painful lessons before, you know, I would correct my behavior. But the risk of misunderstanding, I think, was so painful to me that it made me into a good communicator.
Yeah.
I saw that directly, you know, back to 2015.
Tell the story a little bit, okay?
You know, about me mentioning how patient Ngoc is. So, long story short, I bought my first vehicle from someone through the dealership that Ngoc worked at. And shortly after buying that vehicle, I started experiencing problems with it. And me being how old, 21, 22-year-old me, upset that the vehicle having all these problems with it and stuff like that. I run back to the dealership. I'm ready to trade the thing in, get rid of it. I'm
That's
like,
not how it works.
fuck this vehicle. It's breaking on me. I'm taking it to the, get repairs done on it every now and then. So I take it back, and Ngoc gets with me. I spend days with Ngoc. She's showing me all of these different cars and stuff. And the whole time I'm thinking like, you know what I mean? I'm probably wasting this lady's time. She has food to put on the table, and I'm just running around the lot with her, and she's just patient, showing me every vehicle, all the amenities, everything like that. But through Ngoc being so patient with me, it sparked the interest in me for vehicle sales and all of that good stuff. And shortly after, all of our listeners know that I have experience in the automotive industry selling vehicles. So thanks to Ngoc, you know what I mean? She really inspired me. She was so patient with me. She drove my vehicle wasn't working at the time, obviously. So she would drive the vehicles to my house and pick me up, take me on the test drive from the house and stuff, and she was so patient with me. And not only that, her character didn't change after I didn't end up getting a new vehicle. She was still the same. You know what I mean? Through her showing me 6 other vehicles, she didn't change after I didn't end up buying a car from her.
Wow.
So that told
That's
me a lot about
there.
patience, because I dealt with people that walked in the dealership with like boxing gloves on, like ready to fight whoever. You know what I mean? It was a few days I felt like somebody was ready to KO me just for being a car salesman, but she was really patient, really personable, and I felt like she was my friend, and I think that was important. And lastly, she didn't change after I didn't buy a car.
So, speaking of, being...
Oh, snap.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know you were...
I was making some content right now. Gosh. So speaking of working at a car dealership, like, I feel like it's like a man's job. I mean, the traditional way. How was that? Like, was there other females selling cars? Is it normal? Like, because like when I go like to, the car lot, I usually just see males working there. So like, how was that for you? Like working there, were you like the only female? Was there other females, or was it, how was that?
Yeah. So I would say that, the male to female ratio, there are challenges there, and there were cultural challenges too, because I think you put a bunch of salespeople under one roof, and the program can either be we work together or we work for ourselves. And being able to really help not only myself but others overcome that major obstacle within that year was huge. We ended up having one of the largest months. Well, actually, we had a record-breaking month.
Oh, wow.
After we did, a lot of personal development. The delership owners themselves.
Oh, so they do
invested
that.
quite heavily,
okay.
into a self-development program for us. And really being able to work together and count everyone's sales toward the same goal, I think that helped a lot. To answer your first question, Mona Lisa, some of the most successful and most consistent people on the team were women. And over time since then, I have noticed that women have such a natural way of building value through every interaction that they have. So even when I went on to do conferences and trade shows and things like that for the hotel company, I was always watching those women and how they always hit the mark. With every meeting they had, with every interaction they had, they hit the mark, and then they built even more value. There was never a waste of time.
That's not trying to be feminist, but women are superheroes.
Absolutely. And
they really are.
One thing about it, I feel like just through history, I feel that women have been oppressed for that very reason. Based on fear that you all's natural abilities might, be a downside to someone else, to men, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Because with women, it's in you guys' nature to be
nature,
patient.
yeah.
Even us as parents, I
I'm
feel
the
like
most patient.
women are the nurturers for
Yeah.
kids and stuff like that. It's in you guys' nature to be patient and to be nurturers. And in turn, I feel in sales that helps people feel like they're valued and that they're heard. And I think that's the number one important thing when it comes to sales, no matter what sales class you take or what seminar you attend. When it comes down to it, that person wants to feel heard beyond you selling them a product or a service or whatever. They want to feel like you're their friend and that you're there for them. And again, that's the first thing that I noticed while working with Ngoc was that she was super patient and she really listened to my
Concerns,
problems,
yeah.
and she was very empathetic. If I felt like she felt the pain that I was in and my frustration from having all of these difficulties with that new vehicle that I bought. So no, that's a very great point. Women are crushing it these days, and I look forward to seeing where women go in the future with entrepreneurship, being business owners, because for so many years, for decades, women have been oppressed when it comes to these things, based on, I believe, fear from men.
Yeah, I have one other question about the car sales because it really interests me. So, while working there, like, would men feel a certain way knowing that women were pretty much beating them in sales? Would they feel? I really want to know. I like talking about everything. So
So that's such a good question too,
Yeah.
and I think Tyler can support us
answer
with
that
this
one.
too.
Okay, yeah, you can answer it.
When it comes to vehicle sales, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a man versus woman thing ever. I think it's a salesperson versus salesperson thing.
Yeah.
Because when I sold vehicles in Atlanta, it was like the Wolf of Wall Street in there.
Really?
And I was new. I was the noob in the business. Everyone knew that. So in turn, what did I receive from that? Let's slip under him and try to
take advantage of him.
Try to get in some of these deals with him. Try to steal some of these sales from him. That's what I experienced, and I experienced that from men. So I don't think it's a man versus woman type of thing. I think it's like honestly, I think I would say sales, but vehicle sales in particular, I feel like it can be a dog eat dog world sometimes. Some of the stuff I experienced at that dealership, and I would recommend anyone that is getting into entrepreneurship or sales, dabble in vehicle sales a little bit, because I learned so much through that process. I trained with some of the top sales professionals in the States while working for the dealership that I worked for in Georgia. I worked for the top selling Nissan dealer in the state.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, just through that experience, I learned a lot. But there was some downsides to it, and it's kind of funny now that I look back on it. Honestly, like I told you,
it was like the experience. I wouldn't be who I am without that year of car sales.
Yeah, I was definitely like, I bet that builds you a lot working with cars and working with people and how to interact, because you're already good at communication. But I'm sure this sales side too, it helped you to learn.
Her Motors is great.
Really? Okay,
cool. That's the dealership. I worked there for a while as well. Great dealership. This dealership I worked at in Atlanta, let me tell you, there was this one guy. He was the top sales professional, one of the top sales professionals there. And they put this dude in rehab probably like 5 times. Yeah, because he was so good at selling cars, they didn't want to get rid of him. Wow. He would be at work taking bumps on the lot, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's
great. I told you it's like the Wolf of Wall Street. I meant it.
I meant that.
I meant it. He wasn't the only guy either. There was other guys too.
Yeah, I think,
but this dude was so good at selling cars, they didn't want to get rid of him.
I know.
He would go the entire month. He would go 20 days without selling one car. Within 3 days, within a week, he'll bump out like 20 vehicles.
Wow.
He'll just be chilling the whole month. Legs crossed, just relaxing, sleeping stuff. You know what I mean? You guys probably know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to like really think about how companies incentivize, not just cars, but banks. I mean, dipping into the entrepreneurial world, learning how important that is on the front end to really establish yourself and your core values, and being able to communicate that out, that money isn't really what we're after. There are an infinite number of things that we can do for money.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so right now, okay, so you worked at this car dealership, and then you worked for hotels, being the communication executive. And now you're in Sioux Falls. So what brought you back to Sioux Falls? How long have you been here?
Yeah. So I had a series of major life changes in 2020, but the year prior to that, in September of 2019, I found out that my mom had stage 4 cancer, and she would be on medication for the rest of her life. And the main goal was really to ensure that, she could take the medication and stabilize over time, control the growth of the cancer cells. But knowing that, the inevitable would come, that would be, coming, it was really tough for me, September of 2020, to really look at a year has passed. Am I going to continue, driving 3 hours each way for time?
Yeah.
And lose it at the same time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pandemic also highlighted where I really needed to listen to my own values and put myself in a position where I wouldn't be out of alignment with them as frequently as I found myself. So, starting my own business was really the only answer. I talked to a few mentors, people I looked up to, and said, this is what I'm coming up against. I have all of these collaborators and friends coming back to the Sioux Falls area, mainly because of the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
So Mixmaker really came out of an awful situation and used it as a launching pad more than anything else. Agencies were going remote as well. And being on the buying end, on the franchise advertising side, I was really familiar with the price points and really where the cost and expenses were for, getting an agency to do your work. And I just came back to, I could be so much more efficient than that.
Yes.
I can use a community around me and help them with the sales and marketing skills that I gained over time, primarily sales, business development skills, and really help them just as much as we help our clients. So Mixmaker is almost two-way, where we're servicing a community, and at the same time, that community and Mixmaker is servicing the client.
Wow. So is it just you?
Yes.
Or do you have partners?
I'm a single member LLC.
Oh, wow.
And then the community we're up to 8 right now. And then there are some unofficial members as well. But everyone else is an independent contractor.
Wow.
Yeah. Or, single member LLC as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm kind of familiar with marketing agencies. I actually helped a startup company, I want to say a year ago, with the marketing agency. And I noticed when it came to selling our services, it was very difficult for selling them here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, because a lot of people don't see the value of, I'm not quite sure what you all offer, but with this marketing agency, we offered content creation, ads, social media marketing. And a lot of the times, small businesses really didn't see the value. So do you find yourself having troubles with that, or how has that been going? Finding clients? No.
I really thought it would take a lot more to be as busy as we are right now. And I want to be as humble with it as possible, but it has blown up in a way that I didn't anticipate. And being just over 100 days, at the same time, I want to say I want to serve everybody, but we need to kind of build all of these out a little bit, because I don't want to be a bottleneck within the company at all. And I'm not at a point where I can hire anybody yet. So continually doing the work that we have to the very best of our ability is my continual focus day in and day out. It's not marketing the company, it's not doing PR for the company, although those opportunities are coming up,
Yeah.
you know, left and right, just because it's an interesting concept, and people get to tell the story of, you know, the return of a Sioux Falls resident to build her own business, even though she never thought that she would. But basically taking everything that I learned from working an in-house agency and building that out through the community has been extremely rewarding. And it's been good to tell people about it. At the same time, like, my fear is that I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna make a mistake. I'm gonna be working too hard or going too hard at this to really focus on the excellence that really creates a brand. So communications and PR differentiates what we do and creates more value for the clients, because at the end of the day, marketing is, I like to use this metaphor of, if we're on a date, right? And I keep telling you repeatedly over and over how good I am at cooking, how, what else? How good I am at cooking, how good I am with kids, you know, like all of this stuff. And then the guy next to me turns around and says, she's really good at cooking. She's super good with kids. One is marketing, the former, and the latter is PR. So it's building credibility through word of mouth. So communications as a service, I write a framework on the front end to ensure that there's efficiency throughout all of the creative content that a customer might want. They might come to me and say, you know, I just need social media posts. I just need a video. I just, you know, whatever the just is. There also needs to be objectives that are outlined within that, or else you're going to be throwing spaghetti at the wall for quite a while, seeing what sticks, right? And all throughout that process, you have, you know, risked your business investment more than anything else, your time, money. If you're purchasing ad placement for that video, or, you know, you're just spending it all on the video and haven't thought about ad placement, really like structuring it on the front end. And even if we don't do any business beyond the communications framework itself, you can take that framework and playbook and go and execute on any number of content production pieces throughout the year. And you may or may not need Mixmaker after that.
It sounds like what you're saying is like just being really concise with things. And I think that's something we focus on a lot here at Wake, you know, with our startup, is just being very concise, you know, and making sure the message reads, or, you know, what it is that you're trying to brand or, you know, portray or show to your customer base, you know, or your audience, just being very concise with it so that they understand it.
I wish I was concise, but intentional, I think is the biggest thing. And the biggest thing I notice about you guys is how intentional you are. So that everything else that you communicate is on point because your intentions are on point.
Absolutely.
That, I like that, intentional.
And listening to you, it, you know, I heard you mention a little bit about, you know, how fast you're moving and how that, you know, can be really fearful, you know, at times and scary. And I can definitely relate to that, because business, just like life, it's up and down. Sometimes you have to just be ready. You can't prepare for certain things. But I will say, everything that's led you up to this moment has you where you are right now. And it's amazing to me how you've taken all of these little pieces from everything that you've dabbled in and you mixed it all up and made Mixmaker. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Mixmake, I love that.
You know, that's what it's all about.
I have a question. How did you come up with Mixmaker, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that?
Oh, I decided in a matter of a few days and bought the domain at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like one night before I handed my letter of resignation in. So I only knew like a few things about names that stick, and I really wanted it to have 3 syllables. I wanted it to be, you know, easy to pronounce even by like toddlers. Really. Those were my measures. During the pandemic, I mean, I lived by myself. So for the 5 years that I was working for the hotel company, I traveled constantly. I was kind of a ping pong ball across the United States running, either a conference or some kind of event from one place. And then sometimes we were on tour doing multiple grand openings in the same day and wrangling everyone from the mayor to operators. Like, I was going so fast, I never really had to like live by myself, you know?
Yeah.
So when everything stopped cold, like my last trip was out of Seattle, kind of like the epicenter. And that was just 2 days before the pandemic was declared. And everything halted and I got really quiet and I spent a lot of time by myself, which I like ultimately desired, but there was a vacuum and I actually filled that vacuum with music. I went through like I keep calling it the dark ages, where music was like maybe my number one passion, discovering new music, listening to music, always having my headphones in when I traveled. But I didn't really discover new music, especially during the time where I was so focused on that career. And then I went back and I listened to all of the music. That's how I spent all of like my free time was making playlists. So ultimately, to go back to your question, it's Mixmaker is kind of based on music. It's harmony.
That is so profound.
giving.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
I love
awesome.
it. You're a really deep thinker.
Yeah,
Too deep.
I know how that goes.
he
Because
is like so deep.
I started Wake around the time that I was going through a pivotal moment too, and yeah, it's pretty dark.
Yeah,
But we need those moments. You know what I mean? Those
to
moments,
overcome your obstacles,
absolutely,
to grow something new.
And if you allow it to, those dark moments can become your upside. But it's up to you to make that decision. You know, you either get down on the world or you take that, mix it all up, and do what Knock here is doing.
Yes,
I feel like
exactly.
that's beautiful and that's profound, the way that you came up with that name. And do you utilize that story in terms of like branding, marketing? How often do you share that story? Because I feel that story can bless a lot of people.
Yeah. So I would say on the client end, many people are familiar with the term marketing mix. You know, you create a marketing mix, and people in the industry get that. So I haven't delved into like, I've always wanted to market with emojis too. And if I had to choose an emoji, it would be a nice pair of headphones for Mixmaker. But yeah, it's focusing on the beauty of harmony and how much harmony itself is a core value of mine. I've always looked to music to kind of inspire me to find all of those right pieces that need to fit for something to work and to be well-rounded. And
Wow,
Absolutely.
that's an awesome story.
It really is.
Going back to communication, I know you mentioned how you're not, like, when it comes to public speaking, like, you have a degree in communication, but when it comes to public speaking, it can be scary. It can be too in your head. How do you deal with that? Because I can relate to that. Like, a lot of people see me as like, oh my gosh, like you can just talk, but in reality, like, coming up to those moments, it's terrifying. I literally feel like I'm going to pass out.
Like, you know what I mean? You've seen how the podcast is going so far. It's so funny to me because Mona Lisa, before something like this, she'll be, oh, I'm nervous or this and that. And I'm like, babe, you're going to talk the whole time. Do you see her? Do you see this woman? You know what I mean? I'm just over here like, yeah, babe.
but that's a part
Do
of
your
your
thing.
process.
Yeah. So, like, I want to ask you, how do you deal with that? Like, because like you said that you held conferences. Are you the main one speaking? Like, how do you deal with that? Like,
Oh, I was never like great on stage. I was good at saying things maybe in a memorable way, in a way that people hadn't heard maybe before. And I really focus on being so present. Those are really my main two intentions, is to tell the truth and to be present. And then there may be value for the audience members. If I were to focus on like earning my space and deserving it, and talking about myself the whole time, and no one else would take really anything away from the effort that was, then, you know, everything would be in vain. So the risk again was pretty clear. I know that as far as clients and customers go, they need us to be consistent more than authentic is what we tend to talk about, authenticity. And I think that's so important to bring to the moment and the right now. But being consistently so also means to always be here and to listen and
Absolutely.
to not rush through the middle, I would
Absolutely.
say. Because that's where we tend to get really uncomfortable and in our heads is when like things get quiet and you want to get to the part where you say something cool and it sticks.
Yeah.
But really allowing yourself to
Pace yourself.
think through the middle and to be comfortable in there is good.
I think that if you aren't, you know, feeling those things, if you don't have those feelings going on in your body,
Like
in
nervousness
your
and
heart,
stuff,
in your head, then you're bored, you know? Because if I showed up to any podcast like, oh, we got to do another
Like it ain't gonna be that
we
cool.
got to do another podcast today. I got to go make some clothes today. You know, that's how a lot of people feel in life. You know, many people don't wake up in the morning like, oh, I'm nervous to go to work today because I got this going on and that. You know, I think that those feelings are working for us. You know, they aren't against us. That feeling should be an indicator to you that you're enjoying the process and what you're doing. You know, if you're feeling anxious about something, that's because you like what you're doing. You know, and I think we can confuse those feelings sometimes with being fearful, when in reality, you know, most people aren't waking up in the morning anxious about starting their
Something
day
new.
at work.
Yeah.
They just don't want to go, you know, oh, how can I call in today? I don't feel like doing this, you know. And for instance, with Mona Lisa being nervous about, you know, certain guests that we have on and stuff like that, I think that should tell you that you're actually excited about it. Because when some of these jobs I worked in the past, I wasn't nervous about going to, you know, sell clothes to someone when I worked in retail.
Yeah,
I didn't wake up in the morning like, dang, I'm nervous about dealing with these customers
It's
tomorrow.
not your own.
Yeah. If anything, I was like, I got to get through the day tomorrow. You know? So I think those are good indicators, you know, when we're feeling fearful, if we're anxious about something that we have coming up, if we're afraid that our business might fail, that's because we love it and we're enjoying the process. And, you know, in life, whether it's a relationship with someone or anything, we tend to cling as human beings to things that we love. Yeah. And that should just tell you that you love what you're doing and you're really enjoying the process and you want it to last for a long time.
Yes.
So just really diving into that feeling with gratitude, I feel, you know, can really catapult us into the next things that we have going on. Just waking up, having gratitude for it. You know, I'm thankful that I have a business that I'm scared as hell of sometimes. You know, this is scary. Running a streetwear brand is scary, and I'm thankful that I have something in my life that scares the hell out of me. You know, that my dreams and my goals are so big that they scare me. And I think just really just getting to the nitty gritty and just looking at the really small pieces of it. I feel that's what helps me, because listening to your story and hearing how passionate you are about it and how knowledgeable you are about what you're doing, it's inspiring me right now. Yeah. And I can see that, you know, as long as you're putting, you know, your best foot forward and just going hard and, you know, keeping that passion for it, you're going to do really well with this thing. I thought you were a year in.
I know. I'm like
100 days.
100 days. That's nothing, and you're already doing so amazing. Like,
thank you.
Tell us a little. What does the future hold for you? What with business, personal, could be anything. What does the future hold?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question.
You got any cool projects you're working on?
Yeah. So what I would really like to see for Mixmaker within our first year is to at least get working on a feature or a short documentary. I think that might be one of the coolest long-term projects that we have. When I was starting Mixmaker and getting, you know, the paperwork done, we were just on the other side of the election too. So I would love to see us working on some loss leaders, which, you know, would be like meaningful projects that might not be earning, you know, us a ton of revenue, but those are the projects that I want to be able to get to. Right now, the services that are selling, like, and keeping me really busy are really on the communications and PR end. There is a major niche within the market for that. So getting to the point where I can still fulfill those services and manage those services, but maybe not the one actively producing and doing all the ghostwriting and drafting for the press releases. So that would be like the first, you know, in-house position that I would actually train for. I'm really looking for to be able to scale the business, is to take myself out of the nitty gritty of producing and writing
the business and working
people.
outside.
Because I will sink so much time into it until it's perfect, until it reads like nothing, you know, that has been said so far. I think it goes back to one of your points too. In college, I studied journalism, not mass communications. I hated PR. I was being a journalist is the antithesis of being PR. So really approaching everything from the lens of a journalist wanting to convey the absolute truth as it is, as they found it to the public, that still remains a calling for me today. So seeing our projects come through, we have some video projects coming up here that are really exciting that just look to tell like the day in and day out story of businesses and how some really cool stuff gets done in the Sioux Falls area. I'm really excited about that. So the first year itself looks like it's already kind of packed. I have a couple retainer clients who will keep me busy throughout the rest of the year. And then a couple more that I'm considering right now and proposing right now that would fill up my personal time. And then, you know, get me to a place of stability, not worried about paying the bills, so that we can focus on some of those longer term items.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing sitting back and being able to listen to Ngoc's story.
Yeah. Where can we find you? What are your social medias? Let everyone know.
We're gonna have to let them know twice today.
Well, if you'd like to learn about Mixmaker, the community and the services that we provide, go to mixmaker.info. And then on Twitter, it's I am Ngoc Thach, NGOCTHACH. And then Instagram is the same as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this comes to mind. Outside of work life, what is something that, you know, what's like a typical day for Ngoc outside of work life? Something that you're passionate about. I heard music today. I want to hear, you know, the places in the world that, you know, you want to see that you probably haven't seen yet. All of that good stuff. I want to know a little bit more about Ngoc outside of work life.
Yeah, I do love traveling so much. Leap Day last year, I did the Angel's Landing hike, and I'm terrified of heights. So it was one of the
Conquering your fears.
Yeah, and I have a knack for doing that. Like I love adrenaline way too much. So
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, during car sales, like that was
you
where
like
I
that part
some
of
of
it.
that.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, test track? Okay, I got this.
Yeah.
I do like actively walking. Like that helped me process so much stuff this past year. So walking helps a lot, that forward movement. And then like I've read a lot about lateral eye movements too, that really help you clear and process certain traumas or issues that you're working through. So I did a ton of walking over the past year and a half, I would say.
Wow.
And I mean, that went from hikes to city streets. I don't particularly, this is going to make me sound off-putting, but I really like my AirPods so much. Like I have phantom AirPod syndrome sometimes where I think I have them in, but I don't. And then I'm like, why can't I hear things right now? So any chance that I get to go on a walk and to listen to music, it's being done, you know.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Music must be like a big passion of yours.
Yeah.
It has been, especially during that time alone.
Yeah. I think music is the universal language,
Yeah.
you know, because really what you're listening to is what someone else is going through in their life, you know, with music being so poetic and the vibrations and the sounds, you know, it's kind of like reading a autobiography within, 3 minutes, or listening to one within 3 minutes, you know, because there's so much emotion that goes into music. You know, you can not necessarily speak the same language that the artist is singing in or rapping in or whatever, but you can feel it. And I feel that music is relatable on a universal level, you know. That's really big. That's really big.
Thank you.
Where would you say that you are today, or with your self-love journey? I want to hear a little bit about that. Like, what does self-love mean to you?
When I first heard the phrase, it was on an album cover. It might have been a college band's, one of their first albums, The Great Self-Love. That's actually The Kickback, so shout out to them. It seemed like a cliche, and it did up until very recently for me, when I had an incredibly personal journey with it. I think without self-love, I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I've done in the past 100+ days. That's for sure. When I left my job, I was staunch about taking at least a month where all I worked on was myself, to ensure that I could be the boss that I deserved for myself. Because there wouldn't be a business, there wouldn't be any forward movement if I wasn't healthy. And I wouldn't be healthy if I didn't learn how to move through things by like giving myself grace and love, and putting the hammer away. Like, for so many years, every single time I made a mistake, I would just take the hammer out and just go at it, and it would be constant, you know. And then I would wonder why, I was so anxious or depressed or dreadful. And now it's not that way anymore. I don't feel that way about myself. I don't feel that way about others.
Wow.
Yeah.
And through that process of self-love, a lot of the times you're going to realize, like, these thoughts that you have or that you're having aren't yours. They may have been given to you by someone else through trauma. It's a lot of things. And as you mentioned earlier, with the term self-love being so cliche, I feel like people look at it as being cliche because we don't see what's behind that. We don't see that it's a messy journey. It sounds fun. Self-love sounds fun. Oh, self-love. I love myself. No, it's really not. It actually, I sometimes I wish there was a different term for, like, it, besides, like, it's sounding so fun, because it's really not.
No,
it's a lot of work that goes into self-love.
Yeah, I feel like people look at self-care as self-love, and that's the mix-up. People, I love myself because I'm getting my nails done, and that's all that they see, but they don't see what's behind that, the shadow work, the uncovering all of your traumas and obstacles through your life that you have been through, and like sitting with them and figuring them out and owning up to your bullshit. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
And like, I can relate to you when it comes to like beating yourself up. And I don't know for you, but for me, when I beat myself up, it's because I haven't dealt with that like particular trauma of mine. And so instead of working through it, I'm beating myself up because it's hard to accept it and let it out and let it go. And so I feel like, that's a lot of people get self-care and self-love mixed up.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's fun to go get your nails done, go get your hair done and stuff like that. Feel good, get some new clothes. That's fun. But, self-love isn't fun all the time. And it's about waking up and making that choice to, stay on that straight and narrow and choose yourself.
Yeah.
Choose yourself today. To everyone out there that is listening, choose yourself. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. And if you are selfish for choosing yourself, sit with that and be okay with it, because you got to be selfish sometimes. You wake up to your thoughts every day. You go to sleep to your thoughts. When it comes down to, moments in your life that are very hard, it don't matter who you have around you or how much they do for you. you are the person that gets yourself through it.
Yeah.
You are, and it's good to have people around you that encourage you and that pour into your life, but it is you that got yourself through the hardest moments of your life. You.
Yeah.
And give yourself some credit for that, and don't feel bad, and don't beat yourself up when you have a moment where you need to be selfish and it doesn't feel good. Just be okay with it.
Be okay.
And we encourage you to be okay with it. And thank you for sharing that with us, because I believe when we talk more about this and when we share our stories, it helps all of us in this fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That blessed me today. And I'm so thankful to have the one and only Ngoc Thach on the show today. I want to hear you drop your website one more time. Like I said, we got to drop that 2 times today, because they got to get, the listeners got to get it. You know what I mean?
agree.
Thank you so much, you guys. If you want to learn about Mixmaker, it's mixmaker.info, INFO. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, it's I'm Ngoc Thach.
Awesome.
That is just like that. Just like that.
Thank
Mixmaker.
you.
Take the things you go through in life, put them in that pot, mix it up, and create something great out of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on here today. It was really nice to meet you, and I loved hearing your story. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's like a dream getting to meet you finally after all these years. Like your energy and radiance, it's infectious. So being in your presence is great.
Oh, stop.
Yes. And Tyler, you too.
Hey, if you want to take her for like 2 weeks, be my guest.
I think that was a real
Come on,
offer.
let's go on a girls trip. Bye.
This is People Being People, everyone. Hope you all's week is off to a great start. We're going to crush this week. It's Monday. You know what we believe in on this podcast. Going to make it a great week. People Being People. Self-love isn't an easy journey.
Especially when you came from a really broken place inside of you.
It's an everyday joy.